Afternoon, everybody. My name is Mags, and I'm an alcoholic. And I hope everybody is well this Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, maybe Saturday evening, depending on where you are in the world. It's great to see everybody. A lot of old and new friends here this afternoon. For some reason, I'm particularly nervous this afternoon. For whatever reason that might be, but hopefully through the course of the next 35 minutes or so, Stephen said there to one of the people that are at the meeting that hopefully you'll hear something that might help. And it's always an honour and a pleasure to be of service in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I always pray that something that I may say may help somebody in the room. I'll never know whether it does or not, but that doesn't matter, because I've been taught to, no matter what, take the spiritual action in Alcoholics Anonymous and keep showing up irrespective of what the outcome may be. Because whilst I'm focusing on the spiritual outcomes or taking the action, and my motives don't get in the way, because my motives no longer matter in this life. My little plans and designs no longer matter. Thank you, Stephen, for your service, and to Andy and to Susan P for doing the reading. I know the amount of work that goes into running a group like this and finding speakers and setting it all up, and the army that are working in the background. It's no mean feat to pull this together every single week. So thank you so much for your service. It's greatly appreciated, especially a meeting that focuses on the newcomer. Book, page 15, the very last line, I think. If you've got a big book, by the way, open it. We're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And just for information, if you are new about or you're returning, Alcoholics Anonymous is our big book. It's fondly known by our members as the big book. And inside that big book is our program of action and our program of recovery. Our fellowship and the meetings are called after this big book. And the reason why I talk about that is, if you are new about and you don't know how this all works, meetings aren't the only thing. Many meetings will not make it. But what it says at the very bottom of page 15 is meetings are where the newcomers come to find the fellowship they seek. Our meetings are, for me as a recovered alcoholic, to bring the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, that being the clear-cut directions that are set out in such masterly detail in the 164 pages. I go to meetings as part of my own recovery, as part of my own prescription, but my responsibility, like our AA pledge says, is that when anybody anywhere reaches out to hand for help, I am responsible. And what I'm responsible for is carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. So the reason why I say, have you got a big book, is we focus on the solution that's within this. You will not find our program of action and our program of recovery anywhere else other than in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There are other pieces of literature and other very well written books that add to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but this is where you will find the solution that will solve your drink problem and will solve all your other problems. Solving the drink problem, inevitably your other problems will get solved, because you're going to have the ability to seek outside help for anything else. So it sounds as if I've got this rodeo down, doesn't it? But that wasn't always the case, and it's not always the case every day anyway. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey when I get to that. When I first logged on, there was a lot of lovely chatter in the background, and some people were talking about The Wizard of Oz, one of my favourite movies when I was a child. And I remember the line from that movie when Dorothy would say, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And she'd click her little heels together with those sparkly red shoes and say, "There's no place like home." So anybody that's due about, welcome home. And for those that were returning, Eddie said that he was a returner, welcome home. And as I say to any of my sponsees that make the decision to go back out and try some control drinking, try to do this by themselves. And inevitably they always call within the matter of a few months and say, "I've made a mistake. Can you sponsor me again?" All my response will be is, and always has been, is, "I've been waiting for you." Because there is no place like home. When I sat in my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, right in the very back row, in the very back corner, hoping no one would see me, it felt like home. I didn't go into that meeting of my own free will. My younger sister knew I had a drink problem. I knew I had a drink problem, but I was in complete and utter denial. And she pushed me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that very night, a Wednesday in April 2018, I took my seat and somebody read, like Susan did this afternoon, that extract from chapter 5, How It Works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those words didn't mean anything to me back then, but they do now. If you're new about, or if you're returning, Alcoholics Anonymous, like it tells us in the very last paragraph of the foreword to the 4th edition, it tells us Alcoholics Anonymous is where you come if you want to stay sober. Relapse might be part of your journey. It was never part of my journey. And the reason why it wasn't part of my journey is because I literally couldn't stop putting it into my system. I never thought I'd become a daily drinker, and I did. I never thought I'd become an hourly drinker, and I did. I never thought I would become that person that would drink every morning. I never thought I'd become that person who couldn't open their eyes without first taking a gulp of alcohol. And in the end, this progressive illness, which it is a progressive illness, had me in its grip. Like it says on page 30, the first page of More About Alcoholism. It had me in its grip where I couldn't get a breath. And you know, for Eddie, the person that's coming back, and anybody coming back, as it says on page 31, after every relapse, this gets worse, never better. The people that wrote this book were very, very definite that they used to describe this progressive illness. They are very definite because through bitter experience, they know what they're talking about. And I know today that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the only place that I can find out the truth about what I suffer from, which is that common pain, and where I will find the common solution. So if you're thinking that you can find an easier, softer way by trying to go out and control your drinking, if you think that you've got a choice over your alcohol, if you think your willpower is going to help you, the reality of it is it's not. All the way through step 1, the people that wrote the book are very, very clear that we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable, that we've got no control, no choice, no power over alcohol, and it is all 3. I'm never going to be able to control my drinking and still have the choice. It's just not going to happen. To Jenny and Hudson, to Cameron, and I hope I'm going to say this as well, Ash, welcome back to you too. And I said this at a meeting that I was speaking at the other night. I don't know whether this is the right word or not, but I admire you guys because I couldn't get 12 days on the outside. I couldn't get 30 days by myself. In the end, I had to be locked up for 3.5 months to be able to take alcohol away from me. I had to be locked up from this world to be able to get that first breath. Back to the Wizard of Oz. You know, at the end, when they get to the end of that yellow brick road, and I hope I'm remembering this in the right way, and they pull back those big green curtains, and there's this little guy behind the curtains, the real little man behind the screen. They revealed who this person really and truly was, because the person behind the curtain and what they were trying to project to the outer world was something completely different. And now I understand that with alcohol, that was the curtain that I was trying to close in front of me. Trying to hide from life. Drinking to live and drinking to die. I pulled the curtain over my own eyes and started to live in a place of complete and utter darkness. Because I couldn't look at myself. And I kept on picking up the drink to get that sense of ease and comfort. It talks about it in the doctor's opinion, that sense of ease and comfort that we get when we pick up one drink. But the important thing about that little sentence from the doctor's opinion is sense. It was only ever a sense of ease and comfort. It wasn't real. Because when the effect of the alcohol wore off, I was in the midst of that anxiety, trying to hide from the world again. Like it says on page 17 of There Is a Solution, we are normally people that would not mix. In the end, I started to drink alone. I spent 18 months around the room doing this amazing little dance. I'm really, really good at it. The hokey cokey, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. In, out, shake it all about. Nobody could do that dance better than me, I think. But those 18 months of doing that little dance, all I was doing was causing myself more pain, more agony. Being half in the rooms and half out of the rooms is one of the most painful experiences that I've ever had in my life. Half in, half out doesn't work. What I've come to understand through the wise words of many, many people in this fellowship and through the truth of what is presented in the big book is that I have no other option than to accept the spiritual help, the middle of the road solution, like they talk about on page 25. There is no middle of the road solution if you're an alcoholic. For 18 months, I was blotting out the consciousness of my intolerable situation, trying to figure it all out myself. When in actual fact, the easier, softer way is to have a spiritual awakening as the steps to get a sponsor and do this program. Work the steps like the desperation of a drowning man. And by doing that, everything changes. You know, we're coming up to the big AA anniversary on Monday, aren't we? And it's so beautiful to think that a book that was written years ago, not one word of it has changed in those 164 pages. Not one of it. Not one word has changed. But this book has the ability to change me. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And my friend says a lot, you know, Mags, there's no pictures in AA. There's no pictures in the big book. But what it does have is a lot of mirrors. Because when I read this, I can see the reflection of myself. And through this process of doing the steps, somehow or other, in the most beautiful, compassionate, kind and loving way, my sponsor took me by the hand and placed it in the hand of the God of my own understanding. I felt like I was smashed into little smithereens of glass, and little by little, I was put back together again. And the only way that I can describe it is that they put me back together again, and all I could see was this beautiful mosaic of coloured pieces of glass, and I was able to look at and can still look at myself today in a completely way and see who I truly am. When I logged onto the meeting, I noticed that Abby and her name on her screen says Daughter of God. I thought that was the most beautiful thing. On page 62, it talks about the fact that in our step 3, before we go in to make that decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, it talks about the fact that we take this sincere position that he is the Father, the God of my own understanding, that he is the Father and I am the child. I am the daughter of God. That he's the director, that I'm no longer running the show. That he's the principal and I'm the agent. I'm here to do his work well. I'm here to play the role that he assigns. I heard someone speak. I was at an event during the week in Belfast for Alcoholics Anonymous, and one of the gentlemen said to me at the time, Mags, as long as you keep on doing your father's work well, you'll never drink again till the day you die. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful things that I'd heard in the rooms. Doesn't matter who my father is, Yahweh, God, Christ, Father of light, Spirit of the universe, creative intelligence. It doesn't matter who my father is, but as long as I am doing his work well, I'm so safe and protected, like Susan read out in chapter 5. I'm so safe that I've got nothing to be concerned about. I didn't always think that, those 18 months in the rooms of doing nothing, really. It wasn't that Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't working. It wasn't that, although that's what I was telling people. It wasn't that Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't working. It was because I wasn't doing the work. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. There's no other way to put it. There are, in page 16 at the end of Bill's story, there are people who could not and would not see our way of life. Now, I don't know why that happens, but I know what has happened in my life. I've come to know that I've come to know so much, and I've come to believe in so much, that it's a cast iron guarantee. Cast iron guarantee that if you do this work, it works. So if you want to stay sober, there's just a few simple things that you need to do. And if you're a newcomer or you're coming back, or even now, if you've been around many, many years and you're having that little bit of element of doubt or agnostic temperament where you think that God might not be working for you, or he's not answering your questions, or he's not giving you the answers to the direction that you need, or anything like that, set aside every single thing you think to have this new experience with God. That's what our set aside prayer has become part of my spiritual toolkit every single second of the day, because what I know isn't worth knowing. What I know keeps me in a place of an old idea or a idea. It keeps me in a place of intolerance. It keeps me in a place of contempt, priority, investigation. It keeps me in a place where I'm always being drawn back to my experiences in the past, rather than accepting the things on the terms that are presented to me in this moment. This program of action, this program of recovery has enabled me to be able to stay present in this moment. And what I've just recognized as I've been going through this talk so far is my fear and my nervousness before I started was coming from a place of separation. And the moment I dropped into the awareness of this power greater than myself, all of a sudden I felt comfortable, and I felt the arms of something come around me and wrap around me and tell me that I was okay. That's the thought. In a millisecond, less than a millisecond, we can drop into the awareness like Susan read out. May you find him now. May you find him now. In every single breath of the day, we can find that power greater than ourselves. So for the newcomer, don't be afraid of the God thing. There's no of, but we are going to God. So you better get over that problem. Set it aside, every single thing you think you know, in order to have this new experience with God. I don't really care whether you've got one or not at this moment in time. That's not what the program says. No matter how small your conception is, no matter how small your idea is, like a tiny, tiny grain of salt or sand, even if you haven't got that conception, are you willing to believe that there is something? And that willingness will carry you through. My sponsor told me all along the way, just sit back, Mags, keep on turning the pages and let the book do the work. Because the lack of power that I had, that was my dilemma, like it talks about on page 45. Lack of power is my dilemma. Still is now. But where am I to find that power? Well, that's exactly the purpose of this book. Exactly the purpose of this book. So how can we be sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and not talking about the big book which holds our solution? I just can't understand that. I can't wrap my head around that. But anyway, that's not my business. All my business is to take responsibility and carry this message any time that I can and any opportunity that I have, and to keep on giving it away. Because the more I give it away, the more I get back. And when I say the more I get back, I don't mean by cash and prizes. The more I get back, energy to keep on giving it away. Because what I've learned through this program as well is that life is an echo. Whatever I give out, I get back. It's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard. Life is an echo. And chapter 4, We Agnostics, can be quite a complicated chapter. That's why you need your sponsor to take you through all of this. But that treasure trove, I call it a treasure trove all the time because it's filled with precious gems of reasons as to why you should believe in this power. Precious, precious gems. And we dig down and we discover more and more gems. It never stops giving us the reason why this power, greater than ourselves, is one of the most important relationships. In fact, the most important relationship that I now have in my life. Because if I don't have that relationship, I don't have a relationship with you. And I don't have relationship with my innermost self. You know, the relationship that I have with this power greater than me changes the landscape and the tone and the trajectory of every single conversation that I engage with. Because it enables me to set aside every little bit of the ego that I possibly can. And, you know, I've come to understand as well, you know, that beautiful word that you hear people say, namaste. When I'm looking at another human being, no matter who you are, in Alcoholics Anonymous or elsewhere, namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. Because we're all inherently linked to each other. We're all one. It's like Susan talked about again from the chapter 5. There is one. Doesn't matter what one it is, Allah, Yahweh, Christ, creative intelligence, like I said earlier, there is one. May you find him now. And it's the same thing somebody might be here, knew about, trying to find what their God is. Keep seeking it, yes, and you will find it. But what I've come to learn through this beautiful program is that I can see God in everyone. I don't have to look very far to find it. I can see it everywhere, in nature, in people, everywhere. It's not hard to find. Like it says in We Agnostics, broad and roomy, all inclusive, never exclusive. It's there for every single man, woman and child, deep down in every single one of us. I didn't know when I came to believe that this power greater than myself had restored me to sanity. All I can tell you is that it just did. I can't pinpoint it, and that's not the point of it. I just had the willingness and the faith in the process, and that's what carried me forward. And when I made my decision to hand my will and my life over, that was it. I had to take the action, and the action of handing it over happens through step 4, right the way through to step 9, when I do all of those inventories. And for the newcomer, again, I want to take, if I possibly can, some of the fear away from those steps. Step 4, in the short form on page 59, like it was read, it's fearless and thorough moral inventory of ourselves. In the room, sometimes I think we make step 4 our fearful step, and we actually put the newcomer off by talking about all of the dreadful stories about step 4. It's not a dreadful story. It's a prayerful exercise where we get down to the causes and the conditions of what was really going on deep down inside us. We find out at the bottom of page 64 that resentment is our number 1 offender. Resentment. Resent feelings from the past are the number 1 offender in this moment that can separate us from the awareness of the power that is greater than ourselves. And in order to continue to have that, awareness and connection with the power, I must get rid of all of this stuff that I've made up in my own mind. Because how I see something today is not what actually happened 30 years ago, but I've been harboring these feelings and emotions, drinking this poison and expecting you to die, being the victim all my life, when in actual fact, you haven't done anything wrong to me. And through this process of 4 and 5, I illuminate every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. I shine a light. I admit to God, and this is really important in step 5, admit to God in the first instance, to myself, and then another human being, the exact nature of my wrongs. And in doing so, I shine a light. The light is shone on all of those defects of character that I've been hanging on to, all of those things that are objectionable. And I move into 6 and 7, seeing things from an entirely different angle. Seeing the fact that all of these people who I believed, and it's interesting, the word believe right in the middle is the word lie. All of the things that I believed were actually the lies that I was telling myself about what you had done to me. No one can harm me. I'm so safe and protected. Not one person on this planet can harm me. But what tends to harm me on any given day are my thoughts. And when I ask God to take all of me, good and bad, because I don't know what is good and I don't know what is bad, so just take all of me. It's easier that way. If God takes it all, then he can sort all of that out and leave me with what I need to do his work well as I go out on that journey in 8 and 9 to make all of the amends to the people that I have harmed. To place myself to be of maximum service to God. And that's what I have to do every single day. That's what I have to do every single day. Page 20, there's a beautiful line, and I never seen it for the first 2 years of recovery, but I was with another alcoholic one day reading through There Is a Solution. And right at the top of that page, it says, as an ex-problem drinker, my very life depends upon my constant thought of others. Oh my God, what a different life I have because I follow that mantra. My very life depends upon my constant thought of others. And it takes work because my thoughts will take me down a rabbit hole that isn't very nice. But as I go out on that journey to make these amends, to be able to have these conversations, some of them were difficult, some of them were tricky, yeah, but a lot of it is water over the dam, as it says. But as I go into my step 10, 11 and 12, like this is for you, if you are new and you're returning, what is so easy about this is that we've got a set of tools every single day that tells us exactly what to do. I don't have to work this stuff out. I just have to do what I have to do. And I am a big book enthusiast, and I make no apologies for that whatsoever. But what I've also come to learn is that this isn't a theory, like it tells us in our step 10. It's not a theory. We have to live this way. And I have to practice this every single day. And it does take work. It does take action. Don't always like doing it. But when I don't do it as often as I should be doing it, oh boy, do I feel the difference. My step 10, 11 and 12 is the bright spark of any given day. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Because by the time I get to this stage, I can say, honest to God right now, from the bottom of my heart, like it says on page 25, when the first 100 describe their spiritual experience, I can empathize with what they wrote in the paragraph with absolute certainty that my Creator has entered into my heart and lives in me in a way that is miraculous. That's what's happened. That is what's happened. The blocks have been removed, 4 through 9. I go out to start doing his work, to do his bidding. And I don't know how, but I just know that it has happened. In having this open mind, in having the willingness and the honesty with myself, my heart has been blown open. It's been blown open like, it's incredible. It's been blown open to the extent where all I have to give is love to other people. All I have to give is to be useful. I can't hold on to the past. I can't hold on to a resentment. This power won't let me. It keeps on driving me forward, directing me forward, and giving me the guidance. Right now, life is turbulent. It's turbulent. The clouds are hanging over. Whatever way you want to describe it, it feels grey and it feels foggy. But I know that as I keep on practicing 10 and 12 every single day, like an aeroplane, I'll rise above the clouds, and above those clouds and above that fog is bright blue sky where the sunlight of the Spirit is always shining. And in every moment I can drop into the sunlight of the Spirit and know that everything, no matter what's going on in life, everything is okay. Because whilst I'm here with you guys, whilst I'm helping family, whilst I'm at my work, whilst I'm not thinking in my mind and going down all of those rabbit holes, all of those problems don't exist. All of those problems or little turbulent things that are happening over here are being worked out. Because whilst I'm doing all of this work and I think I'm waiting on something, I'm not waiting really on anything, because God's still working in the background. And where 10, 11 and 12 really changes the trajectory of my life is I watch my thoughts in 10, because my thoughts will become my words and my words become my actions. So I have to start getting this rewiring of my brain where my thought processes are changed, and that I rise above the problems, like it says on page 55, the spiritual liberation from this world. I rise above the problems. My thought life is placed on a higher plane. And on that higher plane, everything just glides. Everything just glides. The turbulence is there, bumpy, etc., etc. But all of this bumpiness is because there's a shift happening. I'm being directed to somewhere that I don't necessarily want to go at this time. I'm clinging on to a few things that might be objectionable. I don't know. But the beauty of it is I don't have to work it out. I don't have to work it out. It doesn't matter what it is, because the matter is physical. The matter is physical. The particles are physical. I don't deal in the world of matter. We deal with the spiritual way of living, which is a whole other domain altogether. It might sound very cryptic. That's just how it is. I just keep on taking the spiritual action, irrespective of the outcome. I live in 10 every single day. I watch my thoughts every single day in 10. I learn in 11. I bring it to prayer, meditation, my inventories, and I learn in 11. I learn so much about myself in 11. And then I grow in 12. And I say this all the time, and it's really, really important. 10 and 11 for me is not about making myself feel better. That's the byproduct of it. The byproduct of it, by practicing 10, 11, I always feel better. My innermost self, when I'm connected to that, I always feel better. But 10 and 11 is not about me just feeling better. It makes me more effective in 12, so I can help more people, can be more useful to more people. That's what this is about. In any given day of my life, in any given second of my life, I can only be defeated. Like it says in page 568, the spiritual experience at the back of the book, appendix 2. Please read it if you haven't done. I can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. That's what it says. Intolerance, my own fixed ideas, my own old ideas. That's what keeps me stuck. Thinking that you need to change, when in actual fact, it's never, ever, 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 ever about the other person. Ever. If there's something being brought to the surface in 10 and 11, it's something in me that needs to change. It's something in me that God is bringing to the surface to be healed. It's something that is being brought to the light for me to heal. in order to be more useful to more people. That's why God wants me healed. That's why God wants me in this recovered state of mind and body. And I'm going to finish on this. I've got a little, at the back of my book, I just found this today, why it resonates with me, but it's a little petition. My aunt passed away a few years ago, and her daughter gave me this little petition, which is like a prayer or a special intention. And before she died, she wrote this, and I hope you don't mind me indulging in this, but there's a point to it. In her writing, she says a prayer for all of her family, especially my niece, who is going through a very bad time at the minute. She has a drinking problem and is making all the wrong decisions. She's a beautiful girl and just needs help. My cousin gave me that a few years after she's passed. And the reason why I read it is because, and I've been saying this over and over again whilst I've been speaking, the power of prayer is one of the most beautiful things on this planet. And I know the alarm's going to go off. The thing for me, every single one of us is currently sitting in the prayer that we once asked for ourselves, or that somebody else prayed for us. We're all sitting in the prayer we once asked for. So if you're here and you're a newcomer and you want the help, ask and it will come. And the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous are filled with wonderful people who will give you this solution and take you by the hand and place it in the hand of the God of your understanding. So I'll leave it at that. I hope it made some sense.